I would like to address the usage complaint someone had. These aren't all households. There's commercial operations out there, and it's a little unfair to assume that every homeowner out there is using all that water. Unfortunately, that's the way it works out when you just go by connections. You don't discriminate between residential and commercial. But my concern is we're currently in a contested case proceeding right now with Interim La Ventana. Interim La Ventana is the developer. There's a real, let me take one step back. When you have one of these water utilities, the utility is the CCN holder, okay? The CCN holder in La Ventana is La Ventana Water Company, LP. You have the water system infrastructure itself, that can be a different owner. You have the wells, the producing part, that could be a different owner. You have the permit for the wells, okay? When I first read the agenda item, it said permit for La Ventana. I wasn't quite sure if you meant the subdivision, which doesn't own anything, the homeowner association, which doesn't own any of this stuff, the water company. I wasn't quite sure what, I'm not picking on, yeah, I'm just saying I know you have to keep it short in the agenda items. But because of the contested case proceeding, we have some questions about, or I have some questions about, I'm a party to that. I live in La Ventana, I'm a customer of the water utility, and I'm a party in that contested case proceeding. There's an issue as to who owns what. And I believe the board was going to be acting upon this based upon the assumption that the water was going to be used for the residences and within the subdivision. And inherent in that assumption was you assumed that the CCN holder perhaps was going to get the permit. I don't know if that was the assumption or not. But I believe there needs to be some clarification and some conditions imposed on this permit to ensure that whoever you're permitting, which isn't the CCN holder, by the way, I'm not sure who you're going to permit on this. Rick, when I came to the office and did an open records request and got a copy of the permit, it says the Interim La Ventana water system. The system is the infrastructure. You have a utility and you have a water supply system associated with it. The water supply system isn't an owner of anything. The CCN holder is the one that has the obligation to provide the water and owns the CCN. That's La Ventana Water Company. The developer is Interim La Ventana. The question is who are you getting the permit to? I didn't have a problem with doing a 3-year permit. I just wanted to make sure with the people you thought you were giving it to and it's going to be used for the purposes you thought it was going to be used for. And the concern was who's the permittee? And so that's my problem is if you give the wrong person the 3-year permit, we've already had 2 lawsuits where one developer held the next developer over a barrel over water. And the way they made money was by not providing the water. They got a monopoly over all the water and then refused to provide it, okay? And they held the next developer over the water. And so my concern isn't about the 3 years. It's about ensuring that it goes to the appropriate party or the intended party. And I'm not sure what the intent was reading the agenda item. That's my concern. I'd rather not make it a contested case. I'm currently in a contested case. I identified that contested case in the letter. You can check on that. But the issues of ownership and those items are the subject matter of that contested case. And PTMS does a great job. So I think you're going to hear something from the operator. That's all I have to say. Oh, the operator is the 4th part of that. Operator is completely different from the owner of the system, which is different from the owner of the CCN.
All right. Anybody else want to speak on this one? Anybody else want to contest this one? If you'd like to speak.
Mr. Janus?
Yes.
Are you here?
Yes.
Do you have the legal right to request what you requested on your renewal application for La Ventana?
As a member of the operations and management company, I believe so, under Patrick King, who's professional.
Under our application, it says any person who has the right to produce water from the land, either by ownership, contract, lease, easement, or any other estate in the land. And under name, it says Interim La Ventana LLC. Did you write that, sir?
Yes. And I believe I pulled that off of the previous permit.
You probably did.
Yeah. And as a management and operations company for Interim La Ventana, I operated with the assumption that we have the legal right as a representative of Interim La Ventana, I'm going to assume.
Thank you. to fill out this application.
I'm in a contested case hearing, I brought materials, I can provide materials, I'll supplement with whatever you want. But
It's in.
Okay.
I'd be happy to stand up and comment.
You have anything else you want to say to make us want to, make us want to continue to contest the case any quicker, or you want to talk about it for a little bit?
I think it's the.
I think you'd be better off if you did, I would like to hear something, so.
Other than, well, I'm Herschel Dennis, I work for, I don't know if I need to come up there, but for PGM, and we are.
Yeah, come on, because
we're the
everybody wants to be able to see and hear you.
operations a management company for Laventana. Honestly, I don't see, other than what Mr. Davis brought up on the ownership clarification, any difference in the issues people have with Laventana and Goldenwood and Radiance as far as the permit. That's obvious, the 3-year issue is the biggie, other than the increase in limits for Radiance. Personally, I think the 3-year permits are a good thing. It helps you better plan what you're going to do in the future. I think 1-year permit means that every year somebody can come in here and request more water on their permit, and every year somebody can come and protest it, but every year that's more of a chance of them getting granted their allocation increase, if that's what they want. So I like to see longer permits because that helps. I'm a former state regulator, and I've seen a lot of water planning back in my water days when I started with Texas Department of Water Resources, and it was continuing on with Texas Department Texas Water Development Board, was something called the biennial water plan. So, in other words, every 2 years they were revamping the water plan for the state of Texas, and that's based on long-term data. And when you have 3-year permits and things like this, it's easier to help the regulators and these folks and the water companies plan their future. So that being said, I understand people's concern about the 1 year increase in the 3 years. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think it's better to have, you know what you got for 3 years when you get a 3-year permit license. You don't know what you're going to have next year when these folks come in. But as far as Laventana goes, and I'm going to assume this is going to be the same procedure, if I'm right. If it's contested, the motion's going to be made as the other ones, and then they go through the process. I'm not sure if there's anything else I can.
I want to say, now, Herschel, how long have you been with BGMS?
Coming up on about a year.
Okay, I remember the last drought, and I don't know if you were there, but it seems like I hear a lot of people complain they may be affected. I think the people in Laventana were actually really affected by the drought. If I remember, they were pumping water, or hauling water in 24 hours a day. They were running, I remember trucks running, they were really affected, not maybe I'm affected, maybe it's gonna hurt me, but they really, so I would think, I don't know why it's so high, but I think they know a little bit about the drought.
Yeah, I think, I got started with Laventana as a public water supply work leader and dealing with a complaint from long ago. And yes, those folks use a lot of water, but we've done, when we were looking at this recently, and I did a little bit of investigation back in my day, and then it was followed up by another person out of my office who's got my job now. And we pretty much landed on very close to the same type of numbers. You got big houses, big yards, but the majority of the people are staying within reason, and it's a small group of people that go way above that, which is skewing the numbers. And I kind of see it as not fair to the people who are working very hard to keep their water usage within reason to be, I guess, punished somewhat because of people that are using our water. So, yeah, I caution to use just straight up the 383 gallons per day as an average. I think what you'll find is probably the real average out there for the majority of the users is the average of everybody else, and there's a few people that skew it up there.
Have you seen the letter that Mr. Davis sent us?
No.
We'll give you a copy of this. Can you have, he has 3 proposals he'd like to see one of these 3 happen.
Okay. Have you forwarded that to PGMS?
I didn't, I turned it into the board.
Does that got anything to do with?
I'll get you a copy of it. I just want you to at least see it. Yes, sir.
And a comment that might help
Sure.
facilitate this process? Am I applicant?
Yeah, I'm done unless anybody needs
Well,
something.
hang on.
You're not.
I'm questioning whether it's right to even determine whether they should go to contest the case right now, because the issue is, I believe Herschel works for PGMS, system operator, great company, but who authorized PGMS to make the request?
Right.
Interim Montana, probably. But who at Interim Montana?
Well, honestly, nobody. When the permit was coming up for renewal, and we prepared the renewal application based on the information that was currently on file.
Based on you had to have a permit to keep operating.
They're doing a great job of trying to keep everybody
Yeah.
legal and things like that, but my only point is that I don't think it's quite right yet. I want them to get the permit as soon as possible. I want to make sure that the right person gets the permit, okay? I just don't think the time is right just yet to even send this off to contest the case, because I think we need to make sure that the authorized entities made the request. They're kind of on automatic pilot right now, because there's a lot of, I'd like to.
When does their permit come up?
Well, I mean, if we can get it resolved in a week or do it, I don't know.
Well, the
How
one
about,
thing that.
I have a question here. He has three questions here, or he has one question, wants to know who owns the LLC? If you, can you find that out in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Before next meeting?
I can hand it to you now. I can hand it to you right now.
I think the whole ownership of this few thing's been up in the air since at least 2007.
It's some hedge fund things, okay? And the problem is, I don't, it's not one of these.
Now, the one thing I can't find out is exactly who was contracted.
Someone's paying y'all's bills.
That's right, to operate and manage.
Right, someone pays y'all every week, or month, or however y'all do it.
And I would have to find that out if that came.
But the relationship between that entity and the CCN holder is really what we're trying to get to the bottom of. That's part of this somewhere here. I don't want to prolong this out. I'm just and I don't want them to be, anybody to be found running afoul of the rules, but the concern is the appropriate person making the request, okay? We'd like to get that, and the appropriate permittee is going to be granted the request. I'd like to get that issue ironed out before, I just don't even think it's right that it's up for contested case procedure.
Right, but I think the way the rules are that people would like us to change tonight, the rules tonight, I believe Mr. McMeans supersedes what you want to, I think, that
Well,
he wants to
I'm saying
contest
there's
it.
an issue in the application that needs to be addressed. That's what I'm proposing, that's all.
Right, the application has to be complete before we even have the hearing going forward, right? If it's not complete correctly, so does that have to happen first before, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
I would, I mean, I understand the point, is we need to, I maybe didn't dive as deep into it as I needed to under the assumption it's a pre-permitted application and using the information that was already in process, which could have been erroneous from the before. So maybe we do need to do a little bit deeper checking.
Well, I think you do. No, I'm okay with that. I just thought we'd get it all done at this next hearing. He's not gonna withdraw his, he's not, are you gonna,
If you reset the consideration of this application, certainly I would withdraw my contest.
He's talking about a period of time. They're talking
Right.
about who's
Are you gonna
owner.
reset?
Just a second. Can I have?
you got about 2 minutes and I'm going to the house.
I understand that.
All right, real quick.
Mr. Davis is asking us is, I guess, in a sense, an extension on this application so we can verify that the application for the permit is interim La Ventana, or if it's supposed to be La Ventana, or that is absolutely correct before we actually go forth with this application. Now, that being said, I don't know if that makes this thing